to accept I'm wrong. Up the fucking Robins.
It was
wrong,
such a shame
Tom.
such a shame that it wasn't on the available on the TV.
And I was a bit annoyed by that because I thought when they talked about their TV deal had ended, this game was before that deal had ended, so should have been potentially shown. But obviously there was no slot in the TV calendar.
Yeah.
They need to get it sorted because
They do.
We'll talk about crowd figures, but less than 6,000 and no TV coverage of the best team in the competition feels wrong in so many ways.
It does. I mean, they've been playing so well for so long now. It is wrong, and we ought to be giving them as much coverage as we possibly can at the moment, because the games that involve them are very attractive spectacles. It was certainly, catching up with the tries afterwards. It was a really good game of rugby. This one, without a doubt.
Quite exciting, obviously.
Yeah, very exciting, and some great performances on both sides, actually.
So what stood out for you then?
I think in the first half, Paula had an absolute blinder. He was pulling strings all over the place. I thought he had a terrific first half of the game. His kicking was really good. He carried the ball well. For a scrum half of his size, it's fairly imposing if he gets his foot on the floor. And
he certainly gets his weight behind those kicks, doesn't he? I don't think anyone kicks it higher than him in Super League.
No, it's coming down with snow on it. Sam scored a try very reminiscent of a young Sam Tompkins, I thought, where he stepped off his right. He came stuttering across the field, stepped off his right foot, came back off the left, and then just left the defenders with not knowing where the hell he was going next, and managed to twist and turn over the line. And it was very reminiscent, I thought, of the sort of try he used to score for fun when he was a kid at Wigan, when he first emerged. And Arthur Morg is a terrific rugby league player. What a prospect that kid is.
His goal-kicking performance in this game was crucial, wasn't it? 6 from 6, and the one that levelled the match up just before 10 minutes or so to go was right from the sideline.
Right on the sideline.
So he's got composure and nerve to go with the skill and class that he's got.
Yeah. But terrific young player he is. But I think Hull KR deserve a huge amount of credit. First of all, for going. They haven't played very much recently, and to have their game against Castleford cancelled, to have their game
against you
step into the breach when Castleford pulled out of the Catalan game, and get themselves over with only a few hours to spare before kickoff, and then put in such a brilliant performance. I think Robins fans ought to be really pleased with that, notwithstanding the fact that they didn't win 104-4.
And they couldn't see it as well. I think the thing they should be most pleased about is they didn't end up playing you guys at your place, so they didn't all have to end up driving back over the M62 at the time when they found that unexploded bomb in Goole.
Unexploded bomb.
that shut down the motorway.
Yeah, although that would have given us a really good title for this week's show, Mark, I'm sure.
Well, I can't think of any others, so it might be it anyway.
No, it might be that anyway, yeah.
No, but the Minikin try, talking of unexploded bombs, never let a rugby league ball bounce.
No.
There was certainly an element of the comical and farcical, wasn't there, about the Greg Minikin try. It was, I think it was probably too far away from the fullback. One of these big Paula Abdul kicks, but on the first bounce, there was 3 players probably from Catalans who could have made more of an effort to attack it, but
everyone, including Sam, stood and watched.
Yeah, but Minikin gambled, got in there, collected it, and ran through to score. I do think the Yaha try that brought things level was probably the try of the game for me. It it looked a good score. The hands to get the ball out there, bit of Tompkins skirting the line and finding the space, and Ben Julian, weren't it, who delivered the final pass.
Yeah.
I'm not though. I don't know what your take is on this, but I'm not 100% convinced about the penalty that decided the game.
I'm 100% convinced it wasn't a penalty.
It looked to me like the tackle wasn't complete.
Yeah, he's lost the ball.
Well, it was either a legitimate ball steal attempt, because at that point it was 1-on-1 and the tackle didn't look complete, or it was a knock-on. The only thing I can think is the referee had called held already.
Yeah.
Called the tackle finished already, and then there was some messing around, but I don't know if it was messing around or the player, because nowadays we're getting used to, and I'm pleased about, seeing more responsibility on the person playing the ball to play it correctly, and less kind of like letting them get away with trying to con penalties all the time by moving off the mark and engaging with the defender themselves rather than letting the... Yeah,
deliberately placing the ball against the defender and all that sort of thing. And it looked a little bit more like that or a lost ball than it did a penalty to me. I was far from convinced. In fact, I was convinced it wasn't a penalty. But there you go.
All I can think is held had already been called.
Yeah. Or it was just a mistake, which happens. I mean, I think... Credit to Catalan, it wasn't the best game. They were up against it, up against the ropes when Hulkayar had got the foot on the throat. Takes a good team to come back from, 2-3 scores like that and then win the game at the end. And if I was a Catalan fan, which I'm not, but if I was a Catalan fan, I'd be absolutely delighted with that win. I think there's probably a loss coming round the corner. Let's hope it's against Saints the weekend after next.
Let's talk about the crowd figures then. Less than 4,000 at Huddersfield. We can sort of joke about Huddersfield's poor crowds anyway and that sort of thing, but still, it's a concern. They have some of the cheapest prices in the league, and it's been a long-standing concern, their crowd numbers, but, we need to, and it was a Thursday night, I get that, but we've seen 5-figure crowds at lots of games for the 100, which everyone wants to hate that loves cricket, including you. But, we've seen 5-figure crowds in that competition, and they're played on weeknights, so it's not the weeknight thing, is it? It's
probably quite a few Bradford Bulls, old Bradford Bulls, free tickets for school children bits going on there though as well, Mark.
Yeah, in their higher crowd figures, which are still never high enough. But yeah, Leeds obviously we mentioned good that it was 5 figures, but down on what we would expect at Leeds. Wigan woefully down. Now I've got a bit of background to this. Wigan and most clubs and most sporting events nowadays usually release the tickets sold figure rather than, or the seats sold figure, or however you might want to dress it up, rather than the turnstile clicks, as it were. Now, they're not going through the turnstiles at Wigan at the moment. You're getting your tickets scanned and going through what are normally the exit doors to help with distancing and stuff. But I have heard that quite a few people the tickets aren't actually getting scanned when they're going in, which is not a good thing, and that's been raised with the stewarding, but certainly not enough to make the difference here. I have heard around about 1,500 to 2,000 season ticket holders didn't attend this match. I don't know, for whatever reason, either being on holiday, not wanting to watch a team that isn't very exciting to watch, having other plans, or COVID-related stuff, either illness or isolation, or being uncomfortable with the fact that restrictions are lifted. Now, similarly, there was people not going because they refused to go to games where they couldn't watch it without a pint because they're fucking alcoholics. But yeah, I know, insane. But anyway, both sides of the coin have played into that. And then 5,500 at Catalans as well. When they're top of the table, I don't know what the rules are over there, so I don't want to say too much, but if I had an interest in the sport and I was down in that area, I don't know why you wouldn't be wanting to go and watch this team. So worrying across the board. Wigan effectively would have announced if they'd have announced it under their normal methodology, would have been announcing a £7,500 that's not pound £7,500 crowd, which still would be the lowest ever Super League crowd. So yes, COVID's having an effect on these things, but also there's other problems here, and we need to be, as a sport, figuring out how as a sport and as individual clubs, figuring out how we're going to address this. I know that I've been in touch with one of the marketing guys at Wigan over the weekend to sort of suggest some ideas and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's
worrying, isn't it?
It's worrying, and I'm not saying this is just a Wigan problem, because I expect to see it repeated around and across the competition.
I'm certain it isn't. I think it's very concerning. I think, going to watch your rugby team or a football team or cricket team, a lot of it's about habit. People get into the rhythm of doing these things, into the rhythm of the season. Frankly, people have got out of that habit. And we need to do something to get them back into it, and quickly. 5,500's rotten, Mark, but it's better than none, which is what Saints have had for their last two home games, with them being called off. So, Saints are going to be desperate for cash. We'd have loved to have had those games on, and I doubt we'll get them played this season. So, that's going to be big holes in Saints' budget.
Well, I've seen Hull KR come out and say that they're going to cap their capacity to 8,000 to help encourage anyone who's concerned about coming back to games.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I think they'd be doing fantastic if they got 8,000. 2019, I had a look, and actually they did get around about 8,000 for more home games than they didn't. They just ticked over in a good handful of games, and then got a big crowd for the derby, obviously. Only one of their home games that they managed to play in 2020 went over 8,000. That was the season opener, and a similar looking picture was in 2018. So yeah, I think 8,000 probably would be their core number in a good year, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think they're putting a message out there to help reassure any concerned fans. One of the suggestions I put to Wigan is why, a couple of other fellow fans put something similar, is why not open part of the stadium socially distanced still, so that anyone concerned about the closeness can use that sort of, I don't know, half of one stand or one end of the stadium or something. It's a halfway measure to get, because the first thing we need to do is make sure that people who are your traditional fan base don't walk away, don't lose interest and don't renew and that sort of stuff, because that's fundamentally important to how Super League clubs budget. And then I say you address the day-to-day, week-to-week ticket sales, because I think when we get a more inspiring competition that is back to its usual rhythm of every week or every other week, as it were, and teams aren't so compromised with the teams they're putting out, then maybe that will help. And also, when we're going to get Bevan French back, maybe some people might be excited again by the rugby they play. I don't know, but yeah, it's worrying, and they have to think of short term, making the most people feel the most comfortable and happy to be in the stadium, and then medium term, how do we kind of pick up some of the lapsed fans and get some new fans in, because it's going to be so hard.
Yeah, it is. Let's hope we don't come up with something like the 100 mark.
To be honest, one thing the 100 has got right is their strategy of getting their crowds in. I don't know what the ticket prices is, and I don't know how that works and stuff. But when you're seeing 7,000 or 8,000 in for the women's games,
I suspect there's a lot of freebies going on at the moment.